Ever get that like little knot in your stomach when you got to make a big decision? Or like when something unexpected happens?
Oh, yeah.
Well, today, we're going to do a deep dive into this whole idea of uncertainty and how maybe, just maybe looking at it a little differently could actually help us grow.
Interesting.
We found this really cool article. It's called Eat and Chi Chi, and it basically flips the script on how we usually think about uncertainty, showing how it can be this like springboard for positive change.
I like that. A springboard.
Yeah, right. Instead of something, scary.
Right.
So I'm curious what you thought about this whole reframing idea. I know the article talks about it a lot.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that, like shifting our perspective, seeing uncertainty as an opportunity, not a threat.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But to be honest, I'm way more likely to like freeze up than like seize the day when things feel uncertain.
Yeah, that's totally natural.
So how do we actually make that mental shift?
Well, the article talks about the importance of mindset. Like having a positive outlook can make a huge difference.
Okay, I'm listening.
One technique it highlights is focusing on gratitude. Even when things feel uncertain, it's like you're purposely shifting your attention, all the good stuff you already have, instead of dwelling on what might go wrong.
So it's like, instead of freaking out about the what ifs, you're like, hey, wait a minute, my life's actually pretty awesome right now.
Exactly. And there's actually research to back this up. Studies show that practicing gratitude can literally change our brains.
Whoa, hold up. Rewire our brains.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yep. It can help us focus on the positive, which leads to feeling happier and more resilient.
Wow, so it's not just some fluffy feel-good thing. It's like a real tangible change.
Right. And that actually brings us to resilience, which the article talks about a lot.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, it's more than just bouncing back from tough times. It's about like learning and adapting and coming out stronger on the other side.
I like that. So how does embracing uncertainty help us build that kind of resilience?
Think of it like this. Every time you face something uncertain, it's like leveling up in a video game. You're gaining experience, you learn new skills, get better at handling your emotions, and maybe even get more disciplined. And all of that helps you deal with whatever life throws your way.
I love that analogy. So instead of dreading challenges, we should see them as chances to level up our resilience, like training for a boss battle in real life.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating challenges, the article also emphasizes the importance of setting goals, but not just any goals, flexible ones.
Okay, now this is where I get tripped up. Like, how can we set goals when the future feels so, uncertain? Doesn't that just set us up for disappointment?
That's where the article uses this really cool analogy of a compass.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So think of your goals as this compass guiding you in a direction, but not like dictating every single step. It's about having a vision, but being open to detours. And recognizing those detours might actually lead to something even better than you planned.
So it's not about ditching our dreams. It's about being open to achieving them in ways we might not have even imagined.
Right. It takes the pressure off having to have everything figured out perfectly.
I like that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually find that balance, like between having goals and being flexible, especially when anxiety about the unknown starts creeping in?
Well, that's where mindfulness comes in. The article talks about things like meditation and deep breathing, even just paying attention to your thoughts without judging them. All these things can help you stay grounded in the present moment and manage the anxieties that uncertainty tends to trigger. It's like hitting pause on that mental whirlwind of what ifs and bringing your focus back to what's actually happening right now.
That makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see how that would be helpful. So mindfulness can help us stay grounded and manage that anxiety. But let's be real for a second. Sometimes that fear of the unknown can feel like totally paralyzing.
Right.
Like it stops us dead in our tracks. So how do we move forward when we're stuck in that fear?
Well, the article really stresses the importance of taking action. It says that's the best way to counteract that fear.
Okay, I'm all about taking action. But sometimes it feels like there's this massive, overwhelming uncertainty looming ahead.
I hear you.
So how do we even begin to take action when it feels like that?
The article suggests starting small. Even baby steps can make a huge difference in breaking through that paralysis.
Okay, I can get behind that. Break it down into manageable chunks.
Exactly. It's about focusing on what you can control right now, not getting bogged down by the enormity of the unknown.
So instead of getting overwhelmed by the whole picture, we focus on those little actions we can take right now.
Right. Let's say someone is feeling stuck in their career, but the thought of making a change is terrifying.
Been there.
A good first step might be just doing some research.
Okay, yeah.
Spend an hour exploring different fields online, see what sparks their interest. No pressure, just exploration.
I like that. So it's about testing the waters, gathering information, and building momentum, one small action at a time.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? As you start taking those small steps, that uncertainty can actually start to feel less scary, more like a challenge, even an exciting one.
Huh, yeah, I can see that.
You build confidence, and that confidence fuels even more action.
Yeah, it's like that snowball effect.
Right?
Small actions lead to bigger actions, and suddenly you're like rolling towards something amazing.
Absolutely.
The article also talks about finding inspiration from other people.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
How does that fit into this whole embracing uncertainty thing?
Surrounding yourself with stories of people who've faced uncertainty and succeeded can be super powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Reading biographies of inspiring figures, listening to podcasts about entrepreneurs who took risks, connecting with mentors in your field.
Right.
It reminds us that we're not alone in facing challenges, and that uncertainty can lead to amazing things.
I used to think those kinds of stories were just like feel-good fluff, but now I'm starting to see them differently. It's like having a whole team of virtual cheerleaders who've been there and done that, and they're showing us that it's not only possible to survive uncertainty, but to actually thrive in it.
Exactly. And that ties back to the article's core message, which is that embracing uncertainty is not about eliminating it. That's impossible, right?
Right.
It's about shifting our mindset to see it as a natural part of life, even a welcome part.
So instead of trying to control the future, which is, let's face it, impossible, it's about accepting that uncertainty is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
And learning to navigate it with a sense of, dare I say, excitement.
You got it. It's about trading that fear-based mindset for a mindset of possibility and potential, and that's where real growth comes from.
I love that. This is all making so much sense. But I got to be honest, there are still times when that fear of the unknown creeps back in.
Oh, absolutely.
What does the article suggest for those moments when we're tempted to just, retreat back into our comfort zones?
Well, the article says that's when mindfulness becomes super important. Those techniques we talked about, like meditation, deep breathing, just noticing your thoughts without judgment.
Right.
Those tools help you stay present and kind of tame those anxious feelings that uncertainty can bring up.
So it's not about ignoring the fear. It's more about, acknowledging it without letting it take over.
Exactly. Mindfulness helps you create some space between you and those negative thoughts, like hitting the pause button on that mental whirlwind of all the what ifs.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful. But sometimes those what ifs feel so real, so overwhelming. How do we stop them from actually controlling what we do?
It comes down to recognizing that you always have a choice. You can let those fears sweep you away, or you can acknowledge them and then decide how you want to move forward.
So it's not about getting rid of uncertainty, but about choosing how we respond to it.
Right.
That's actually pretty empowering when you think about it.
It really is. And as you practice mindfulness, you'll find that you become less reactive to those fears. You'll be able to observe them without getting so caught up in them. And that takes away a lot of their power.
It's like building up immunity to those negative thoughts, huh?
Exactly.
The more we practice mindfulness, the less those what ifs can hijack our brains. This is all starting to click for me. Reframing uncertainty, building resilience, setting flexible goals, being mindful, taking action. It's like we're building this toolkit for dealing with all the unexpected twists and turns that life throws our way.
That's a great way to put it. And at the end of the day, the article is really about the freedom that comes from embracing all of this. It's not about knowing all the answers, but having the courage to step into the unknown and trusting you can handle whatever comes next.
Yeah. Like shifting from a mindset of fear and limitation to one of possibility and potential. And that shift is where we find true freedom.
Absolutely. It's the freedom to explore, to experiment, to make mistakes, and ultimately create a life that is truly your own.
I love that. This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on uncertainty now. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
I'd say just remember that uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's an invitation to grow, to evolve, to become the most incredible version of yourself. So go out there, embrace the unknown, and see what amazing adventures await.
Beautifully said. And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and never be afraid to embrace the unknown.